Chancellor Rachel Reeves has confirmed that tomorrow's budget will provide billions in extra funding for the National Health Service to help provide thousands of extra appointments and cut waiting lists.
But the health service may struggle to deliver with staff vacancies and falling numbers of nursing students. The Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, joins us now. Good morning to you. And
good morning.
That's the issue, isn't it? I mean, obviously, this sounds great, you know, billions more going in, making all of these extra appointments, but will it have the impact you intend? Do we have the staffing there to be able to see all of this through?
Yeah, good morning. Two things. I think what the budget tomorrow will enable us to do on the NHS is to firstly arrest the decline and stop the NHS from the downward spiral it's been on for some years now, and start fixing the foundations of the NHS to turn the situation around and get the NHS back to where it always should have been, which is there for us when we need it. What we're confirming today is that the budget will enable us to deliver our manifesto commitments, the 40,000 more appointments every week we promised as a first step. In fact, thanks to the Chancellor, we are already got work underway. In fact, this week we've got crack teams of top clinicians going into hospitals across the country which have the highest levels of waiting and also the highest numbers of people off work, off sick. And the reason we're sending those people in is because they have shown how you can improve the productivity, the number of people going through for the funding we provide. They're showing how you can get more people through more quickly to speed up waiting in those parts of the country. So that's the first step being delivered as we speak. The budget will also enable us to honour our manifesto commitment of doubling the number of diagnostic scans and scanners across the NHS, and there are about 1.5 million people at the moment who are waiting anxiously for a test and scan. The budget will enable us to do that. Will this budget fix all of the problems in the NHS all at once? Of course not. I think people are realistic that you don't fix 14 years in a single budget. But the important thing is that whether it's fixing the public finances or fixing the NHS, this is a budget that will enable us to fix the foundations and start building a better future for the country.
It's very striking, Wes Streeting, that you didn't repeat the phrase in that answer that you used in the days after the general election when you said the NHS is broken. And I wonder why you didn't use the word broken. Is it because people think if something's broken, you throw it away? Is it because that has such a terrible impact on the morale of nurses and doctors and all the staff working hard every day in the National Health Service who get really angry when the Health Secretary tells them the NHS is broken?
No, I'd say two things in response to that. Firstly, I've been saying repeatedly that the NHS is broken but not beaten. I've said that in recent days, and I will continue to be honest about the scale of the challenge in the NHS, because unless you're honest about the scale of the challenge, why should people trust you to meet the challenge? And actually, I've had the opposite reaction from staff working in the NHS. I think they have been sick and tired of people who've been in this chair in my job under the previous government coming on and trying to put a gloss on everything and to say that actually things aren't as bad as we think, while those people are going into work every day, slogging their guts out, doing the best they can against the backdrop of the NHS crisis. I think what people want from me and the government is honesty. Honesty about the scale of the challenge, honesty about what we're going to do, and honesty as we improve the NHS, being honest about the things that we are yet to improve. And that's what you'll get from me. Okay. That doesn't mean there aren't people providing amazing care every day. Of course there are. And they're the people who give me hope, actually, about the future of the NHS. I want to take the best of the NHS to the rest of the NHS. But I will never mislead the country about the scale of the challenge or where the NHS is falling short, even under my stewardship as the Health Secretary. OK,
so just to bring you back to this issue of staffing, because we know that there are thousands of vacancies in the NHS. Just yesterday we were hearing the news about the number of people accepted onto nursing courses has fallen by up to 40% between 2020 and 2023. I mean, this is declining, isn't it? And you describing it as a broken system, we're hearing about the demoralised staff. All of that isn't helping. What are you going to be able to do to tackle the staffing issue?
Well, I'd say two things. Firstly, I don't think it's a new government that's demoralised the staff. I think it was the last government, which is one of the reasons they were booted out.
OK, but what are you going to do, though, looking ahead?
Well, I mean, the budget tomorrow, and I don't want to get ahead of the Chancellor, not least because I value my kneecaps and I don't want to announce the Chancellor's budget before she does. And secondly, I heard what the Speaker said yesterday about not announcing things outside of Parliament. So I will take both of those things in mind.
That's a radical approach to Treasury control, Wes Streeting. I mean, your kneecaps. I mean, you know, Rachel Reeves, really?
She's a tough chancellor. That's all I'm saying.
OK.
And I've got the bruises on my ribs to show for it. I think more seriously, though, when people look at the budget tomorrow, they will see the scale of the challenge in the public finances and what we're doing to address that. They will see the choices and the trade-offs that we've had to make, and they will see the extent to which the Chancellor has prioritised the NHS. And I think that's the right priority for the economy as well as for the public service itself.
But on the issue about how you're going to get the
with the future of the NHS.
That's the thing. How are you going to tackle the number of vacancies that you have, which we understand is more than 125,000 currently, and this issue with future recruitment, a crisis in the number of nurses wanting to go into the profession? What are you actually going to be able to do about that?
A few things. Firstly, I thought it was really important when the Chancellor came in and she had all of those recommendations from the independent pay review bodies, that she honoured those in full, because I think that was the right thing to do, to treat staff with respect and to restore confidence in the independent pay review body process. And I think that has been an important start for rebuilding trust with the profession. Secondly, as part of the biggest national conversation we've ever undertaken in the NHS, which we launched last week, change.nhs.uk, if your viewers want to take part, please join in, give your views, your experiences, your ideas. We are also involving the nursing profession and others in shaping the future of the NHS. And one of the questions I'm asking them is, what can we do to make sure you stay? And what can we do to make nursing a more attractive profession? Because actually the people who work in it love it. They just wish they weren't working against such a challenging backdrop. And that's why what we're announcing in the budget this week, I hope, will build confidence and hope about the future of the NHS, which has been sorely lacking for some time.
Can I move you on to another big debate our country is facing? The issue of assisted dying, very important to many of our viewers. People really kind of concerned and care about it. The Prime Minister says he wants legislation. There's to be a private member's bill, though, not government legislation. You, as the Health Secretary, have told colleagues that you'll be voting against that legislation. So is the Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood. Last Friday, we had Esther Rantzen on our programme. Can I just play to you what she said?
I was so sad that the Secretary of State for Health, a very, very influential man, wasn't following the government's advice to stay neutral if you're a minister, so that everybody could make up their own mind according to their own conscience.
Wes Streeting, I don't see how you could stay neutral. It's such an important issue. Everybody will have strong views. But explain to us why you are disagreeing with the Prime Minister and with Esther Rantzen and are voting against the bill.
Yeah, so the government is neutral. Ministers are able to vote however we want. We're subjected to a free vote. I hadn't actually intended to wade into the debate last week. I was asked a question at a private meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party by a colleague, and I gave an honest answer. And it was a reminder to me, if ever you want something in the media, just tell a meeting of the Parliamentary Labour Party, and it's better than putting out a press release. But we are where we are. So just to explain my position on what I think is actually a really important debate and a really sensitive issue and a finely balanced judgment as far as I'm concerned. I've come down this time on voting against the bill on the basis that I worry about palliative care, end-of-life care not being good enough to give people a real choice. I worry about the risk of people being coerced into taking this route towards the end of their life. And I also worry, even where you've got really loving families who are very supportive, I really worry about those people who think they've almost got a duty to die to relieve the burden on their loved ones. And I've had to weigh those issues up against the very powerful arguments on the other side of the argument as well. And I think about one of my grandmothers who died a very long, slow, painful death from lung cancer when I was 10 years old. And there are moments back then, I mean, I wouldn't have thought about it in the context of a political debate, but I would have given anything at points to end her suffering, which is why I think this is a finely balanced
there will
argument.
be members of Parliament who are voting against on religious grounds. You're not one of those?
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm an Anglican. I'm a member of the Church of England. It's not on religious grounds, and I respect people who take different views on that basis as well. I think this is going to be a really interesting and important debate. We are taking different views within parties as well as across Parliament.
Will you be pleased if the bill is defeated?
I don't think pleased is the right word on this one, actually. I genuinely think there's a real moral dilemma around this bill, and I think that's one of the things that makes it objectively an interesting debate. But I'm also conscious that there are people's lives wrapped up in all of this. And I was moved by what Esther Ranson said on your programme last week. I also have to think about the people that don't have a prominent voice in this debate and whose interests might not be well served by this legislation, and weigh up the risks as well as the opportunities.
No. Do you have a message for Dame Esther, though? Because, you know, she was obviously very upset by your stance and what you had said about this, and she said that you're forcing her to fly to Dignitas to die alone. Do you have a message for her?
Just to say that I've thought a lot about what she said and what other people have said who I've met with and spoken to or received emails from over the years on this issue. I have a huge amount of respect for her and a lot of admiration for the campaign that she is part of. I have huge admiration for my colleague Kim Leadbeater, who's bringing the bill forward. And ultimately, it'll be for Parliament to decide. As a government, we will implement whatever Parliament decides. And in fact,
so you won't feel the need to resign if the bill was passed and it became the law?
No, not remotely. And in fact, you know, just to demonstrate how finely balanced these judgments are, as the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, I might be voting against the bill. But Karen Smith, who's the Minister for Health, who would ultimately be responsible for implementing this bill on a practical level, she is a long-standing campaigner in favour of assisted dying. So these are finely balanced judgments that are not dividing Parliament along traditional left-right boundaries. And that's why I think the Prime Minister was absolutely right to say that this is a free vote. MPs should vote according to their judgment and their consciences, and that the government will remain neutral. Even as ministers take their own positions, the government doesn't have a view. There'll be no whipping. And I really admire, actually, the way that this debate is playing out in Parliament. And I predict confidently that when we have that debate in the coming weeks on the floor of the House of Commons and indeed the House of Lords, you will see Parliament at its best in terms of the quality of the debate, the level of thought and care that's going into this, and the respectful way in which this debate is playing out amongst friends and colleagues.
OK, Health Secretary Wes Streeting, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you.